Hello, my name is Dania Dominguez, and I am here to talk to you about the two strategies that I have been assigned. First, I'm going to start talking about syntax surgery. The syntax surgery, what I found out is that it is helpful. It's a strategy that will help students be able to break down sentences, especially the problematic sentences, the sentences that do not make sense. They'll be able to look at them and operate the sentence, and move around letters or include nouns, pronouns, adjectives that would make sense in the sentence. So for example, if I had a sentence posted up on the board that said, "Me have a scarf blue," that would be the sentence we would be working on, and the students will be able to see it up on the chart or the chalkboard. And I would ask them, why does this not make sense? Why would this be considered a problematic sentence? And then we can be able to obviously cut out the me, take it out, and put I. Instead of "me have a scarf blue," we would say "I have a scarf blue," and then they'll look at it, and then we can stop and think about it and review. Would this still make sense? Is this a good sentence now? Does it make sense? And hopefully they'll say no, and I'll say, okay, so I have a scarf blue. What do we need to change now? So that's whenever they'll be able to cut out that word. That's why it's called surgery syntax, because you're operating on the sentence. So we would take it away, switch out the blue and the scarf, and we would have "I have a blue scarf." And then that way students will be able to actually have hands-on activities. This could even be a little station in a classroom where a teacher can have the chart there for the students with problematic sentences and have the correct have the cards prepared for them to just stick in there and correct the sentence on their own as a group or individually. So I really enjoyed learning about this strategy. So students will be able to have exposure to hearing and seeing proper learning sentences come together and identify the reasons on why a sentence would be considered to be problematic. After students' writings or during oral communication, this is when we can come together as a class, and the teacher could model the proper sentences. So she can first show them how it would be done. So together as a class, they'll be able to correct the sentences that are improper. So that's a really, really fun thing to do, and then once students get the hang of knowing how to do it, they could individually do it on their own or in a group, or the teacher could even identify those struggling learners who are still not understanding and pull them out and work with them. Like I said, it could be a station that the teacher can have for them. On my template, I included the step-by-steps. I would first identify the problematic sentence that causes a difficulty, needs to be corrected. We could write the sentence out on the whiteboard, chalkboard, or like I said, I really like the chart that I found it on Pinterest. It's like a chart that they can do, and it's like a long index card. The teacher can just write it out, cut it out, see, so the students can understand why it's called a syntax surgery. I would tell my students, we are doing a syntax surgery, and I would want them to know what that is. I think I wouldn't want to confuse them, but then I would like to let them know this is what this is called. So then whenever, it is written down, we can rearrange the words in the correct English sequence. We could practice more sentences with the same pattern, write a few more sentences with the same word pattern on sentence strips, and have students read them along with you for additional practice. And also, teachers need to keep in mind that they need to be careful because you don't want this to interrupt the communication you have with the student. You wouldn't want them to feel uncomfortable when they speak to you, especially English language learners. I found something really interesting that it said that if what the student's message was clear, respond to it, modeling the correct English syntax. Write the student's sentence down and return at a later time to use the syntax surgery strategy to support the refinement of the student's English. It is also a good technique to be observant of other students who might benefit from the explanation and use the opportunity to give instruction to several students at one time. So this is a really good technique that I really liked. And my second strategy is the cognate strategies. I also really did enjoy reading about this. I kind of had a little bit of trouble finding and trying to learn about it, but once you were able to send me those emails, they were really helpful, and it even helps me have ideas on what I can do in the future. But with this, students will develop cognate awareness and will be giving strategies for using cognates in their primary languages as a tool for understanding English as a second language. Students are introduced to the concept of cognates by playing and matching a word game, so they could do that. Then using direct instruction and modeling will help introduce students to 4 types of cognates. Then students are guided as they identify the cognates in a brief passage. Students then apply their learning independently. They can do that. The step-by-steps that I said how I would implement the strategy was, this is an example. I could obviously introduce the vocabulary first. This activity merely introduces students to the concept of cognates and is not intended as a springboard for rote memorization of a word list. That's something we do not want to do, just have them memorize things. Just word lists. No, we want them to understand this is the type of cognate that you need to be aware of. English. If I feel like I am an ELL student, and if I would have known this in the past, I think it would have been easier for me to distinguish certain words and why is this word like this? I'm actually barely now learning this, realizing that this is something. It has a name to it. So I would explain, because English and Spanish are closely related. Some words in Spanish are similar in form and meaning to a word in English. These words are called cognates. You should also define and describe the 4 categories of cognates. So you can tell them the first one is that words that are spelled exactly the same in both languages. I would ask for volunteers whose pairs were spelled exactly the same to call out their words. And as they do, list them on the graphic organizer. Ask students whether they know of other English, Spanish cognates that are spelled the same way and have the same meaning. So for example, the word hotel. In Spanish, it's hotel, and it's spelled the same way, and they mean the same thing. It's a hotel, the same thing. So that's an example of one of the 4 cognates. The second one is words that are spelled very similarly. These often vary in predictable ways. For example, declaration and declaración. Those 2 words are the same thing, and they are spelled very similarly. So that's the second That's the second form of cognate. And the third one is words that are less similar but share the same root. So sport and deporte. Now the fourth one is words that sound alike even though the spellings vary. So pleasure and placer would be an example of that 4th form. So I would definitely model this a lot with them, using sample readings, and document them in a camera so you can read it together as a class. And I would definitely use this strategy by first having them see them themselves, recognize them themselves by, read a story that includes these cognates. Read it as a story, read it as a class. Then distribute photocopies of the story and have students work in small groups to find cognates in the rest of the passage. Ask them to circle any cognates they recognize and make a list of the cognates and take a guess at their meanings. using their knowledge of their first language to help them. After students complete the activity, gather student responses in a whole class discussion of the passage. So that's how I would do that. And I also included a little more in depth. I said that during reading, you can use the sample readings on a document camera, have students work independently to apply that learning, finding that 4 categories of cognates. This is after we have done it together as a class. Then they can do it independently or with a partner or with their table group and identify it with another story. I believe that the graphic organizer would also help students be able to visually see the types of cognates. They will develop cognate awareness and learn strategies for using cognates in their primary language as a tool for understanding English. So they could even have that graphic organizer in their reading notebook and refer back to it whenever in future readings or, whenever they use it to speak. So they can know their meaning and be able to speak, be able to know what they're saying and understand what they're saying in English. So I really did enjoy this activity. Thank you.